I uncovered my sister and fiancé's deception at the altar. The wedding they planned to sabotage turned into the ultimate unraveling of their own lies. I operate a hotel at one of Boston's most prominent establishments as a 45-year-old woman. I've worked my way up from the front desk to my current position, dedicating the last 20 years of my life to this business. What began as a work to help my sister when our parents passed away has evolved into my identity, my accomplishment, and my haven in a cruel world. Creating moments, planning experiences, and making sure every visitor feels the warmth and elegance that have come to define our brand are all part of managing this hotel, not just keeping an eye on things or upholding standards. 3 years ago, we received our 5th star after I oversaw the restorations, rebrandings, and even a total reworking of the service philosophy. The employees here are like family to me. Many have been with me for more than 10 years, and they have seen me grow from a young, anxious boss to someone they respect and trust. They have helped me through the difficulties of raising my 35-year-old sister Rachel, filling in when she needed me at school functions or during those trying adolescent years when she found it hard to handle our parents' absence. Although Rachel currently works at a nearby cafe, our relationship has always gone beyond sisterhood. I was 25 years old, just starting my management training program, and suddenly in charge of a 15-year-old who had lost everything when our parents perished in that horrible tragedy. I became her best friend, mother, and sister all at once. Her welfare was my top priority in every choice I made and every promotion I sought. Our haven was the hotel. Rachel would complete her homework in my office during school breaks while conversing with the housekeeping staff and picking up French from our seasoned concierge. As she became older, she would assist at the front desk at peak times, and our frequent visitors loved her for her inherent charm. Despite the difficulties of those years, we managed to put a life together out of the pieces of our broken family. I was never interested in romance. Dating felt like an extra hassle between running the hotel and making sure Rachel had everything she needed. There were fleeting flirtations at industry gatherings and sporadic dinners with business associates, but nothing that ever seemed worth pursuing. My employees would make jokes about putting me up, but I consistently refused. I would tell them that Rachel was my child and the hotel was my husband. When 43-year-old Ethan arrived at our hotel 3 months ago, everything changed. The way he viewed everything made him stand out right away, not only because of his custom-made suit or his quiet assurance. The majority of our affluent guests were too preoccupied with their phones or their own significance to pay much attention to their surroundings. Ethan watched. He praised the delicate lighting that took me months to perfect, remarked on the vintage molding we kept throughout restorations, and pointed out the fresh flowers in the foyer. During check-in, he said, "Your attention to detail is extraordinary," his eyes looking directly into my eyes. Even though I've stayed in hotels all over the world, this one is unique. You can sense the thought that goes into each detail. Those remarks struck a chord with me because they recognized the hotel's thoughtfulness and effort in addition to its beauty. When he inquired about nearby eateries, I found myself offering not only the customary suggestions but also my own personal picks. The undiscovered treasures I came upon on late-night strolls following especially trying days. We fell into what seemed to be a natural pattern throughout his 3-night visit. After his meetings, he would come back to the lobby lounge every evening, where he was in an ideal position to strike up a discussion with me whenever I walked by. He inquired intelligently about my professional background, the hotel's past, and my future goals. Ethan appeared truly interested in every detail. In contrast to most visitors who view such discussions as merely being polite. Instead of doing the customary corporate checkout on his last morning, he left a handwritten message that read, "Your enthusiasm for the place is inspiring. How about we carry on our conversation over dinner?" He gave me his personal phone and said he understood if I wanted to keep connections professional. There's so much more I'd love to learn. I debated whether or not to text him for hours. When Rachel came into my office that afternoon, she saw that I was preoccupied and demanded to see the message. "You have to call him." More excited than I had seen her in years, she exclaimed. "When was the last time someone actually took the time to get to know you, not just your job?" Everything changed after that first dinner. Similar to my enthusiasm for hospitality, Ethan talked passionately about his work in investment banking. Just as I saw the delicate dance of managing a premium hotel, he explained complicated financial tactics in a way that made them sound like art. He listened to my mention of my parents with sincere compassion, offering his own stories of resiliency and loss. Months passed, and our bond grew faster than I should have been concerned, but Ethan made it all seem normal, even inevitable. Always keeping in mind the preferences of my employees, he would surprise me with lunch at work. He demonstrated an amazing recall of every small detail I had shared about Rachel on our weekend excursions, even swinging by to provide encouragement and inquire about her job at the cafe. He informed me, "You're different," one evening as we were strolling around the waterfront. By now, most people in your situation would be burned out and jaded from dedicating so much of themselves to their families and jobs. However, you've managed to strike a lovely mix between professionalism and sincere friendliness. Finding someone who genuinely appreciates the importance of creating experiences for others is uncommon. 2 months into our relationship, over a private dinner at a fancy restaurant with a view of the harbor, the proposal was made. The ring was exactly what I would have picked for myself, elegant without being garish. As he knelt next to our table, Ethan talked about creating a future together while a string quartet played sweetly in the background. When you find someone who shares your beliefs and commitment to greatness, why wait? I know this seems fast, he acknowledged. Allow me to be a part of your universe and assist you in building something even more remarkable than what you have already accomplished. When Rachel learned that she was engaged, her reaction was intense. Tears were running down her cheeks as she gave me a hard hug. At last, she said. Someone deserving of you. I was genuinely moved by her excitement as she immersed herself into the wedding planning. We stayed up late talking about specifics and exchanging aspirations and wishes for the future, as if we were teenagers once more. The wedding preparations moved swiftly forward. I deserved to be the focus of attention for once in my life, so Ethan insisted on throwing a lavish celebration. He was comforting when I raised concerns about the expenses. His suggestion was to combine our resources. I saved for our honeymoon and future house, you saved for the wedding. I take it that we are now partners. Rachel insisted on handling a lot of the wedding planning so I could concentrate on managing the business. She managed the guest list, set up samples, and communicated with vendors with a level of efficiency that made me think of myself. You've taken care of everyone else for so long, she replied. Let me handle this for you. The hushed phone conversations that ended abruptly when I walked in the door, the occasional glance between Ethan and Rachel during our family dinners, and the unexpected coincidences of them running into each other when I was preoccupied with work-related emergencies are some of the indications that I chose to ignore. Everything fell apart yesterday. When Ethan hurried off to what he claimed was an urgent client meeting, he left his phone behind and came to my office to discuss final wedding plans. The notifications lit up the screen as the cell phone continued to vibrate with incoming texts. I didn't intend to pry, but I noticed a preview of a message. My darling, I can't wait until tomorrow. She won't be aware of what struck her. Rachel was the sender. I opened the phone with shaking hands. There was no password security. He never thought I would see it, I discovered later. My world was completely upended by what I discovered. They exchanged hundreds of mails dating back months before I had even met Ethan. In an early communication, Ethan had written, "She's perfect for our plan. Hotel manager, substantial savings, no real relationship experience, plus she trusts you completely." Rachel had even more heartbreaking answers. She has always put a lot of effort into looking after me. She never established a personal life. This will be far too simple. Everything had been planned by them. It wasn't by accident that Ethan showed up to the motel. Rachel had told him everything about me. Even my favorite wines and my routine. Every chance meeting, every sincere discussion, had been meticulously orchestrated. But their affair was only one aspect of the truth. Ethan's career as an investment banker was unsuccessful. He used credit cards to purchase his luxury suits. His promises of an opulent future were false, and his tales of financial triumph were made up. I was his lifeline as he drowned in debt. Their true strategy was made clear by the messages. Utilize my cash to have an extravagant wedding, then during the ceremony, shockingly disclose their affair. They would make fun of me in front of my friends, co-workers, and employees, and I would be left to bear the consequences. With what was left of my money, they would vanish. Something else caught my attention as I read through their exchanges. Notes from Ethan's legal wife, Katherine. She knew who he truly was, unlike me. Arguments concerning unpaid bills, unpaid child support, and his gambling debts filled their texts. Now as the light is rising, my workplace is covered with deep shadows. My hair and makeup crew will be here in a few hours. Rachel is meant to be present, acting as the maid of honor and a loyal sister. Another detail I discovered in their communications is that Ethan will likely be practicing his vows, which I now know were lifted from romantic films, in preparation for his role in this deception. The location, catering and flowers for this wedding cost all of my life savings, which I have been saving for the past 20 years while raising Rachel, sending her to college, and helping her pursue her dream of owning her own cafe. However, a peculiar serenity has descended upon me as I sit here and watch the early morning light dance across the hotel lobby to which I have devoted my life. They believed they were taking advantage of me by betraying my love and confidence. They failed to remember that I wasn't naive to get to where I am now. I've managed one of Boston's most prominent hotels for 20 years, and over that time I've learned how to deal with crises, transform setbacks into opportunities, and, above all, play the long game. I have been on the phone for the past several hours, to my lawyer, who has been diligently documenting everything and preparing the required legal measures. To Katherine, who needs to know what her husband is plotting, and to the hotel security team, who have always been more than just employees to me. They are the family I selected, and they have already taken some action. Today, a very different kind of ceremony will take place in the exquisite ballroom, where I have planned many flawless weddings for other ladies. I will benefit from every detail they intend to use against me. Everything will go exactly as planned, just not in the way they had hoped. This includes the 300 visitors, the costly decor, and the meticulously scheduled timing. I get a little depressed when I see the bridal gown hanging in my workplace because of the dreams it symbolized. However, such fantasies were based on false information. And I've always valued harsh realities over lovely lies. In front of everyone I know and admire, Rachel and Ethan intended to make a scene that would stick in my memory. Their goal was to make my wedding day a grand event. I've worked my entire career planning flawless events, and this one won't be any different. Things won't go as planned for Ethan and Rachel tomorrow. They're going to have exactly what they wanted, a wedding to remember. After all, I've learned one important lesson in my 20 years of hotel management: although the client isn't always right, they always receive what they are entitled to. The city is now painted in tones of gold as the sun has fully risen. Time to get ready for the once-in-a-lifetime performance. They believed they were the show's directors, but they are going to find out who actually controls this establishment. In contrast to them, I never let my audience down. Update. This morning, Katherine showed up at my hotel office. She produced a stack of financial paperwork, including evidence of Ethan's debts, unpaid child support, and the loans he had taken out using their shared assets as security. She was a composed woman in her early 40s with a calm intensity that mirrored mine. She put the documents on my desk and added, "He's been doing this for years." Spread elaborate stories about his wealth, targeting successful women. But this is the first time he's worked with an accomplice. I mentioned Rachel's involvement, and her voice caught a little. The following hour was devoted to going over messages and contrasting timings. The holes in my discovery were filled by Katherine's record. Ethan had a recurring pattern of extravagant credit card purchases, seducing women, and then vanishing with their money. Rachel's involvement, which gave his scam more legitimacy, was the only thing that was different this time. After that, my lawyer showed up and went over everything we had collected. "This isn't just fraud," she clarified. She has already prepared emergency petitions to freeze accounts and stop any attempts to transfer funds, saying, "It's a conspiracy. And with the evidence of their planned public humiliation, we can add emotional distress to the charges." Both of them continued to send messages throughout the morning. Rachel texted to say that she was happy to pick up the flowers. Fake concern filled Ethan's voice as he called twice to discuss last-minute plans. Every interaction seemed like a new betrayal when I didn't respond, but I remained silent. A discreet briefing has been given to the hotel staff. The purpose of the security cameras is to record everything. Disguised as service personnel, police officers have been placed subtly throughout the hotel. They are awaiting my cue, prepared to take action as soon as the fraud evidence is made public. Katherine went into further detail about their marriage, including how Ethan would go missing for months at a time and then come back with long-winded justifications and vows to reform. For years, she has been accumulating evidence in anticipation of the ideal time to take action. It was like giving her the last puzzle piece she had been attempting to complete when I contacted her last night. The cosmetics artist set up in my own suite an hour ago. In an apparent attempt to coordinate with Ethan for their big performance, Rachel texted that she would be late. A lovely reminder of how quickly fantasies may be turned into a weapon is the bridal gown hanging, ready. When Ethan's parents first arrived, they had no idea what their son really was. The reporters I reached out to pretend to be wedding photographers, eager to capture every moment. Ethan will not be aware of Katherine's presence until the ideal time, as she will be seated in the front row. The required paperwork has been prepared by her lawyer for prompt action. The frequency of Rachel's messages is increasing, and there is a tinge of anxiety in them. "Are you all right?" she inquires. "You seem distant." If it weren't so terrible, the irony of her worry would be funny. This is the result of 20 years of sisterhood. Though not for the purpose they intended, the location is turning into the ideal stage. Instead, every detail they planned to embarrass me would double as the background for their publicity. When I look at my reflection in the office window, I see someone who has spent decades controlling chaos rather than a victim. They believed they were planning the ideal scam, but they would soon discover who is actually in charge of this operation. Update 1. Just now, The makeup artist completed her job. This isn't the bridal preparation I had envisioned, and every brushstroke serves as a reminder. My mirror displays expertly done makeup and flawless contouring. They expect me to be a blushing bride, and I look just that. When Rachel did show up, she rushed into the bridal room with an armful of flowers and that phony smile that I can now see clearly. She embraced me with what seemed like real warmth and said, "You look stunning. How long has she been this skilled at acting?" As I observed her in the glass, she started to fiddle with my veil and talk about last-minute things. As her eyes met mine in the mirror, she remarked, "It's unbelievable that my big sister is finally getting married. You deserve this happiness for everything you've done for me." If it weren't so tragic, her performance as bravado would be stunning. All morning, Ethan has been sending texts that are meticulously crafted to keep up his facade until the very end, such as, "Can't wait to see you, love," and "just a few more hours until forever begins." According to his most recent communication, his parents are excited to have me join their family. The hotel's huge ballroom has been renovated just as planned, with 300 chairs precisely placed, crystal chandeliers glittering, and white roses all over the place. Only a few members of my team are aware of what is actually going to happen, but they work quickly through the preparations. Ethan won't notice Katherine until it's too late because she is already positioned, sitting quietly in a corner. A few minutes earlier, her lawyer showed up with paperwork. The police officers who are pretending to be employees have verified their identities. Rachel never stops attempting to spend meaningful time with me. "Do you recall the time we spent planning your wedding as children?" As she adjusted my clothing, she inquired. She is correct in one regard, this will undoubtedly be more remembered than those childhood fantasies. This is even better than anything we imagined. I can see visitors coming in through the window of the suite, acquaintances I've known for decades, co-workers from the hotel business, and even some of my frequent visitors who have grown to be like family. They're all decked out in their best attire, anticipating a love celebration. Rather, they will witness a very other event. In the foyer, Ethan's parents are welcoming visitors, and his father is gushing over his son's prosperous investing business. Their world will soon fall apart just as thoroughly as mine did yesterday. The string quartet is getting ready and rehearsing in the wedding march, which will never come to its customary end. I just received confirmation from my lawyer that everything is set up. Legally, as soon as Ethan and Rachel take action, a series of unanticipated events will begin. Rachel continues to be the loyal sister by assisting me with my sneakers. She squeezed my hand and asked, "Are you nervous?" I forced a tiny grin, realizing how accurate she was about the gravity of what was about to happen. It's normal to be quiet before such a big moment. We have 30 minutes till the ceremony starts, according to the wedding coordinator's recent signal. Rachel excused herself to inquire about a few things, most likely to finalize plans with Ethan. Today, I'm by myself in the bridal suite, surrounded by the mementos of what ought to have been the most joyous day of my life. They'll discover in half an hour how justified their dread of my attention to detail was. Update 3. I started walking down the aisle as the wedding march got underway. Ethan played his role as the successful, attractive groom filled with emotion as he stood at the altar. The scenario briefly resembled the fairy tale conclusion they had intended to ruin. Rachel, still wearing her maid of honor outfit, came forward as I was halfway to the altar. She said, "I'm sorry, but I can't let this continue." Her voice echoing over the flawless acoustics of the ballroom. "Ethan and I are in love. I'm carrying his child." The audience's gasp was precisely what they had hoped for. Just as expected, Ethan's face changed from that of a stunned groom to that of a regretful lover. I recognized that they had practiced this moment. Their spectacular surprise had been meticulously arranged. Ethan said, walking over to me, "Grace, you've been nice to us, but Rachel and I—" My voice was clear and calm when I interrupted. I motioned toward the rear of the room, and the big screens that had been used for wedding pictures came to life. "Let me handle the announcements from here." The meticulous preparation, the premeditated deception, the jokes about my confidence, and their planned betrayal were all visible in magnified form. Katherine got up from her chair and walked slowly in the direction of the altar. Ethan's expression turned pale. She said, "Hello, darling." Her voice piercing the startled quiet. "Surprised to see your wife here?" There was another round of gasps when the word wife reverberated around the ballroom. The policemen who had been pretending to be employees took their places. With paperwork in hand, my attorney came forward. Financial information started to slide on the screens, the theft, the fraud, the complex strategy they had devised. "Ethan Thompson," declared the lead detective, "you are being held on charges of grand theft, fraud, and conspiracy. Miss Rachel Anderson, please remain where you are." Rachel's expression fell flat. The self-assured smile gave way to fear. She reached for me and pleaded, "Grace, please. You don't understand. He said that once we had your money, we'd be together." Finally expressing my rage, I said, "Once you had my money? You'd run away together, start a new life with the savings I earned while raising you." When Ethan attempted to flee, the hotel security guards were prepared. All the exits were closed. His father got up and demanded answers. He received copies of the evidence, his son's dishonest past and the list of deceived women, instead of replies. Ethan's assets were frozen and divorce papers were served to him by Katherine's lawyer. As the cops carried Ethan away in handcuffs, the visitors watched in stunned silence. Rachel stayed motionless, tears running down her cheeks. She muttered, "What's going to happen to me?" I said icily, "That depends on the district attorney." She was escorted out of the ballroom by 2 officers. The click of handcuffs marked the end of 20 years of sisterhood. My hotel personnel navigated the turmoil with efficiency, guiding guests to the reception area. Surrounded by the flowers and decorations intended for a completely other event, I found myself feeling oddly at ease as I stood in the empty ballroom afterwards. Even while the betrayal still hurt, it was somewhat satisfying to see their well-thought-out strategy fall apart. Katherine's case appeared strong, and Rachel was assisting the prosecution. There would be several courtrooms where justice will be served. A month has passed since the wedding that never happened, because both Ethan and Rachel decided to collaborate with prosecutors after realizing the strength of the evidence against them. The court case proceeded more quickly than anticipated. I was given $50,000 in damages from Ethan by the court, but getting it will be a completely different story. The judge's remarks regarding their plan's premeditation and the breach of family trust were especially severe. Ethan is currently facing criminal charges in 2 additional states, and Katherine's plea for retroactive child support was also successful. Throughout the proceedings, Rachel made multiple attempts to get in touch with me. "I know I can never make this right," she said in one message. "But please, you're the only family I have." I erased all of her messages without answering. The sister I thought I knew, the one I reared, never existed. According to my lawyer, Rachel may be able to avoid jail time by cooperating with the prosecution, but she will probably still be subject to probation and required reparation payments. She used to talk about wanting me to be an aunt someday, so the fact that she is still carrying Ethan's child feels like a cruel joke. Once more, although in a different way, the hotel has turned into my haven. I was really struck by the loyalty of my workers during the entire event. They have surrounded me with a protective circle, answering phones, rerouting intruders, and making sure I can concentrate on what I do best, managing this establishment. Quickly, word got out about the failed wedding and the arrests that followed in the hotel business. Unexpectedly, it has improved rather than harmed my reputation. "Takes real strength to handle that kind of betrayal with such dignity," said one of my frequent clients. In a long letter, Ethan's parents expressed their sadness and embarrassment. I turned down their offer to pay for the wedding. Money was never the point of this. It has to do with family and trust. I've already transformed the intended improvements for the honeymoon room into a brand new corporate conference space. I've kept in touch with Katherine, exchanging details on Ethan's current legal issues and offering support for one another's court challenges. She has turned into a surprising ally who genuinely recognizes the extent of his dishonesty. "We're both better off knowing the truth," she stated to me, "no matter how much it hurts. I still have the bridal gown hanging in my wardrobe. Something prevents me from making the final decision to donate it, even though I should probably. Perhaps it serves as a reminder of what I learned about my own strength rather than what I lost. The woman who purchased that outfit was incredibly naive in her trust. Now the owner, a woman, is aware of this. I've kept Rachel's old room ready for her over the years, and her belongings are still there. I finally packed everything into boxes yesterday and gave a storage firm a call. It will be held for 30 days. I forwarded the information to her via my attorney. Anything left over after that will be donated. The betrayal itself is no longer the most difficult aspect. It's recognizing how poisoned 20 years of recollections have become. Was Rachel constantly playing a part, waiting for the appropriate moment, or was every Christmas picture, milestone celebrated and late-night chat with her genuine? I've returned to my job, finding solace in the well-known routines of hotel management. I'm putting all of my energy into new initiatives and enhancements, and my staff has observed that I'm more focused than ever. I was invited to give a presentation on crisis management at a hotel management conference last week. I hardly recognized Rachel's handwriting when I looked at her signature on the settlement documents this morning. On the other hand, I hardly recognized her anymore. With a few pen strokes, 20 years of sisterhood came to an end. I have lost my anger. Simply fed up with bearing the consequences of what transpired. My true family. my employees and devoted customers need me, and the hotel needs me. And I simply have to look after myself for the first time in 20 years. I occasionally find myself thinking about Rachel and the unborn kid she is carrying late at night in my office. I know I made the correct decision though, when I think back on the messages I saw, the premeditated betrayal, and the years of deceit. After burning, certain bridges ought to remain ashes.